background. Hey, how's it going? My name is Shami Stovall, and this is my puppy, Gigi. I just recently adopted her. She's got a tiny little bum leg, so that's why I hold her a lot. She's very cute, and she's going to be my assistant and help me out. Huh, Gigi? Yeah, you're so cute. You're so cute. Um, I guess I'm going to start by explaining that I am an author. I write science fiction, fantasy, and lit RPG. Obviously, because we're in the lit RPG group, I'm going to focus more on my lit RPG works, but I'll briefly talk about all my things because I got 30 minutes to fill. So, whoa, we better talk about all everything. I've technically written over 20 books. I think I'm on. Hey, Kyle. I think I'm on book 25. Um, just to give you some, like, whoa, that's some fun trivia. I started writing when I was a DM, and everybody loved my campaigns and my stories that I wrote for the campaigns because I wrote original settings. So people were like, "Wow, you should write books." Whoop. But at first, I just wrote books for my friends, and so the first few books that I wrote, um, how to best put this tastefully, were a lot of adventure and a lot of erotica. Because every single person was like, "Oh, well, you should write sexy times in your books." And if you can believe it, those were the first books that got published. I wrote them under a pen name, and they're a little too spicy, a little too spicy for normal consumption, but for whatever reason they sold. And then I decided that I was just going to keep writing because I love it so much. I was an attorney. I technically have a bachelor's in history. Went on to go to law school. I worked in a drug court in California, which was awful. All of that was awful. We don't really need to go into that part of the backstory. Oh, you read The Nightmare Arcanist, yeah. Well, and the whole series. I really liked the ending to Nightmare Arcanist, but I did, or the last one, Grandmaster Arcanist. I contemplated not including that last chapter. It really tore me up because that final chapter to the Frith Chronicles was how I imagined the Frith Chronicles ending, but I knew a couple people would like it better if that last chapter didn't happen. So I fretted for a long time over whether or not I would include it. I really like it though. I really like that last chapter. I think it really brought everything together. Anyway, I was an attorney, a sad attorney. But I really love writing, and yeah, that would have made me sad too, Kyle. Like I said, that final chapter was how I imagined the whole series ending back when I started the first book. I was like, "Oh, okay, the first book will be about this, and his friend on the island will have the phoenix, and she'll be really obsessed with getting a true form phoenix, and it'll be so great in the end." And like that's what I had thought. I was like, "This will be great. I'll just keep doing this." I almost didn't include it. Huh, Gigi? Yeah, you're so cute. So after I wrote adventure erotica, I wrote science fiction because I think it is my favorite genre of all time. And like the first book that I self-published was Starmark Rising. Woo! Here it is. Whoa! I really love this cover art, but I really love most of my hardcovers because if you take off the dust jacket, there's like cool shit underneath. Most of my hardcovers have something cool underneath them. So, um, Starmark Rising was my first like science fiction, and it's a space opera. It technically won awards for being a cool space opera, but it's about like a criminal guy who joins like a mercenary group and then reforms. Like he's a bad guy to begin with, but then he becomes a good guy. And then it turns out his captain is evil. So, whoops. I mean, maybe that's a spoiler, maybe not. It's been out for years, so. But I really love that series. Very fun. Um, I then wrote the Nightmare Arcanist series because I really wanted a book that I could just hand to anybody and be like, "Hey, if you want to read anything that I've ever written, you should try out Nightmare Arcanist." Hello, Facebook user. Um, So I specifically wrote Nightmare Arcanist to be a book that I could recommend to anybody without reservation. Anytime hey Ryan, anytime seriously somebody is like, "What should I read of yours?" I recommend this. And that's because my first book was Adventure Erotica, which I couldn't recommend to like a bajillion people. Hey Brian, um who can you recommend Adventure Erotica? See, my first book ever published, technically, thank you. I really love the new covers. I'm going to show off the third one really quick because it's my favorite. I wrote Adventure Erotica, and I can't recommend that to people. You know, like people would stop me on the street and be like, "Shami, you've written a book. Tell me, where can I read it?" And I'm like, don't read it. You don't want to read it. I know you. You're very upstanding and prudish. Hello, Sharon. Like my grandmother, for example. My grandmother over here being like, uh, Where, where's your book? And I'm like, Grandma, you can't see this book. And then I wrote Starmark Rising, and Starmark Rising is science fiction space opera, and you would be shocked how often people just don't want to read science fiction. So people would be like, Shami, what books can I read of yours? And I'm like, well, I got adventure erotica and I've got hard science fiction. And they're like, wow, those both sound awful. And I'm like, oh, okay. Uh, so Nightmare Arcanist is actually my love letter to like Pokemon and Digimon, Monster Rancher, Azure Dreams. I love any familiar based anything. If you've got monsters you can train, capture, collect, I'm there. I'm there. Even if it's a knockoff brand, I'm like, whoa. We've got pocket monsters and trouser monsters and shirt monsters. I'm getting all the monsters. Oh, so frith. So I have a bachelor's degree in history, and frith is a very old timey word. And I've always thought it was a really fun word, but it's like an old timey word for freedom, um, basically. So I really, really liked it, and I thought I would use it. I don't find many people misspell it, but more people misspell nightmare. Hey, Richie, I know that guy. Um, I'm glad you really liked Academy Arcanist. I like where I'm going with that series. Anyway, here's the next cover for Coliseum Arcanist that has this eclipse. I know that I'm in black and white because I'm a chump, but the black and white still does it some justice, I think. You can tell it's an eclipse. Coliseum Arcanist, definitely one of my favorite in the series. For anybody who has read the series, on the back is a picture of the runestone. Um, the World Serpent Runestone that becomes a pivotal plot point. So, really love that. Anyway, wrote Nightmare Arcanist is a love letter to all familiar based things. I love familiars, love magical creatures. Isn't that right, Gigi? You're my magical creature. You're so cute. And I just put everything I love in that series. Um, and it's done really, really well. A lot of people really like the series, and it's the one book and series again that if somebody asks to read something of mine, I'm like, go ahead and read that. Derp. And then there's the spin-off series, which I did in all white covers. Um, Academy Arcanist. And I did this because a lot of people were like, Shami, the Frith Chronicles are like Harry Potter. And I was like, the Frith Chronicles aren't like Harry Potter. I don't understand why you said that. But a lot of people said that to me. A lot of people were like, Shami, it's like Harry Potter. So I realized that a lot of people wanted it to be like Harry Potter. And I thought, you know what? I fucking love Harry Potter. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to not curse. I really like Harry Potter. There we go. No cursing. Uh, thanks for the congratulations, by the way. It is release week. Um, so with the what? So with these hardcovers, I did the inverse. I did inverse colors underneath the here. Gigi, you gotta wait right here. So if we got this, it's like inverted colors underneath. I love all the hardcovers, all the cool stuff underneath hardcovers. Anyway, the Academy Arcanist series is meant to be more in line with like a Harry Potter story. So there's a magical academy and all this. And then I wrote Lit RPG, and the reason that this happened is because John got me into lit RPG. He really, really loved Dungeon Core. I think I told the story just the other day. Um, he came to bed one night and we're like lying in bed, it's dark, and he's like, Shammy, if you were a dungeon, what kind of dungeon would you be? And I was like, what the what the fuck kind of question is this? Oh, again, sorry. What the heck kind of question is this? And he's like, a dungeon, like what if you were an elemental dungeon or like a fairy dungeon or something like that? And I'm like, oh, like a D&D dungeon, not like a sex dungeon or something. And then we started talking about that, and I'm like, where did this question even come from? And he's like, I just started reading books, dungeon core books where people become cores in dungeons. They're all dungeons. They create their own dungeons. And so he told me all about lit RPG and how amazing lit RPG is, and how he loved The Land by Alaron Kong. And he also really loved The Divine Dungeon by Dakota Kraut. And he super loved Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. He told me all about those series. He was like, my God, Shammy, you got to do that. And yeah, yeah. Sorry, JD, but I was confused at first by my husband's question. Anyway, so I started reading some lit RPG, and I really like it because I really like tabletop gaming, and a lot of it. Hey, Stuart. Reminded me of tabletop, and obviously I was a DM for so long. I super duper love tabletop gaming. So I wrote the Nexus games, which is my lit RPG. And obviously, if you can kind of see the cover, whoop, it's a shiny reflective cover because, of course, it is. Jeez. It's sci-fi fantasy because I love sci-fi. It's definitely my favorite genre. It's got tons and tons of fantasy because I can't stop writing fantasy. Um, it's one of my favorite series ever. It is never like super blown up. It's not done bad, but it's never blown up like the Frith Chronicles or my Academy Arcanist books. But I do have fans of the series who constantly are like, "When's the next book coming out?" Which, by the way, the next book's coming out hopefully in January. Has one of my favorite characters of all time. The Nexus games. Woo, what? Bitso, the announcer for the games, because the book is like a Hunger Games, only in a video game style setting. I should probably just hold this while I talk about it. Here you go. Oh God, why does the shine? Um, what is this? Here we go. The so it's a Hunger Games style video game tournament. Main character isekai'd into a death tournament where he has to participate with a team who is kind of kooky. All of them are kooky. And the announcer is a guy who's basically chained to a table and forced to announce the games. So he's like mildly insane. My husband quotes my own book to me all the time because he loves this announcer. Like the announcer will just say crazy things, in the middle of the games when he's announcing what's happening. It's like, the main character, Kellen, successfully avoided that minefield, which reminds me of the last words my father ever said to me, which were, "Stop, son, the gun is loaded." Dude, I was laughing when I wrote that. John quotes that all the time randomly to people, and people give him the crazy eye 'cause it's insane. You know what I'm saying? um, so the Nexus games has a lot of humor and a lot of action. The main character is an unmitigated badass in the Nexus games because I really liked that kind of trope where guy is summoned into a bad situation and they're like, "You're our only hope to save us," and he's like, "Oh geez, why am I here? I guess I'll save everybody." Like that kind of attitude. Yes, Sharon, there are audiobooks of the Nexus games, read by Dan Callie, who I really enjoyed. I thought his narration was great. Um, so I love the Nexus games. I get good laughs out of those all the time. And I'm gonna finish the series. Should be finished not too soon, huh? Oy, oy, oy. Oh, okay. So here's another one of the covers, actually. Nexus Challenge. Just an absolute blast. So many great one-liners. There's a lot of quipping in that. The book that just came out is another science fiction called The Half-Life Empire. And I love The Half-Life Empire because it's my love letter to Fallout. I love Fallout, the setting. Um, yeah, the unwilling hero. Exactly, Ryan. Man, I love unwilling hero types, especially when they're very, very talented at what they do, but they really just don't want to be there. So Kellen in the Nexus games is summoned forcefully to participate in this tournament, and his teammates are four people who seriously just have a bajillion emotional problems and or magical problems that they've inflicted upon themselves. So they're kind of sad sacks. I like to call them a ragtag team. That's what they are. He gets summoned into a ragtag team, and the ragtag team is like, we have to win no matter what. It's a fucking death game. If we all die, it's terrible things are gonna happen. And Kellen's like, why did you summon me? And they're like, they have reasons. It would take too long to explain here, but they've got reasons. And he's like, oh geez, I really don't want to be here. And they're like, well, you either gotta win the games or die. You know, you can win the games and go home, but otherwise that's it. And he's like, I guess I gotta win the games then. So Kellen pulls it out in hilarious ways, in my opinion. The Half-Life Empire, um, obviously, just came out just a couple days ago. It's more like Fallout, where it's like a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland. There was a forever winter, but before the nuclear winter, humanity had come into contact with aliens, and now everybody has like advanced alien technology. So the suit on the front is like advanced alien tech, almost like Metroid. I mean, I guys, I've played a lot of video games, and I like a lot of video game shit. And so we got advanced aliens, advanced alien tech, but also a wasteland. So there's like all this fun stuff hidden in the wasteland. So you could be walking along, but then you could find fucking power armor or like a vault filled with super cool stuff. And Kita, the main character, is trying to find like an underground oasis. So almost the reverse of Fallout. So in Fallout, they start off in a shelter, escape the shelter, and get up to a land where it's all war torn. And this one is like the exact opposite, where she's trying to get into a shelter because she doesn't want to be in the war torn wasteland. And so it's a lot of fun. Well, at least I like it. This is the book that got me my uh, literary agent. Um, I'm represented, and he sells stuff for me, and he's really really great. But this was the book that I sent to him. You know, it was like a query letter. Anybody who's done like traditional book bullshit. This was the one I sent, and I was like, "Hey, do you like this? Is it cool?" And he wrote back, and he was like, "Dude, this is a roller coaster ride. This is fucking amazing. I'll definitely sign you." I was like, "Yeah!" So I really love the Half-Life Empire. Definitely one of my favorites I've ever written. Uh, Michael, um, dude, publishing like the traditional route where you have an agent and you talk to publishers and stuff just adds 6 months to the process at the bare minimum, sometimes longer, if that makes any sense. The publishing world, huh, Gigi, tell them the publishing world is slow, and everything is slow, and everything takes forever. Huh, you're too cute. And having an agent is like, oh, Kyle, you got the bestiary from the pledge box. Yeah. So for people that don't know, I ran a Kickstarter to do a special bestiary edition for the Frith Chronicles, Nightmare Arcanist and Dread Pirate kind of squished together. Where is Nightmare? Where are you? I squished them together, and then I'm doing a bestiary. I've got over 70 pieces of art for that bestiary. Um, there we go. So much artwork is going into it. I'm so excited for this bestiary. I actually had to talk to the printer because the bestiary part is probably going to be printed on separate type of paper than the reading part, so that the paper in the bestiary is like a higher quality for pictures, so that all the artwork comes out really fancy and nice. But you don't really want that thicker paper for the whole book, because then it would be a hassle to turn all the pages. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, I really like Stephen King. I admire he just writes in any genre. He wants, he writes fantasy, he writes horror, he writes short stories. He just does whatever the hell he wants, and so he's my spirit animal. I'm just gonna keep writing all sorts of wacky things. Um, do you have indie books published before you get an agent? Yeah, I did. I all of the Frith Chronicles, all the Starmark Rising, all that kind of stuff, all indie published. Um, so here's, dude, when I submitted the Half-Life Empire like around to agents, that was like 2 years ago. Okay. Some of them didn't get back to me for 2 whole years. Okay, Gigi, I'll put you down. Oh, there goes my puppy. They didn't get back to me for years. And I didn't want to wait any longer. There is a piece of me that's like, guys, if you're gonna go like the traditional route in publishing, just be prepared to die waiting in line because there is a lot of just hurry up and wait mentality everywhere. Agent did not get me a big 5 deal. Uh, Agent did get the Half-Life Empire published. This is published through Podium. They are doing like an ebook, physical book, audio book thing. Like they're expanding as a publishing house. I think they're in like a Fortune 500 company now at this point. And so Podium took it. And I've been really happy with Podium because Podium is very, I guess, streamlined. They're very friendly. They get stuff done really quick. We'd like to sign you. Yeah, dude, that's how it's becoming. Um, a lot of publishers now are like, "Hey, do you have successes already?" It's that meme of like, "This is an entry level position. I hope you have 5 years of experience before we'll hire you." That's what it feels like, even in traditional publishing. They're like, we don't want to publish you unless you have a huge online presence and tons of followers and maybe already a best-selling book. Even Travis Baldree, who did Legends and Lattes, he self-published it and got a lot of people behind the work before a publisher picked it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, so there is a certain degree of, I mean, I tell this to anybody who wants to be an author all the time. Man, if you want to be an author, like it's a passion, not like people who are like, I've got this one beautiful book I want to write, like my memoir, or um, just this one singular book. It's a collection of short stories or poetry or something. For them, I don't really have much advice because I don't know anything about that. But if you want to be an author full time, like where you write stories and you have tons of stories to tell and you really, really have a passion for telling stories, you should just start publishing immediately. Maybe start on Royal Road, maybe start on Amazon where you indie publish, but you should get your name out there. You should get your works out there. You should join a writers group and get critiques on your writing. You should study other people's writing. You should read a lot of books, that kind of thing. Don't wait until it's perfect because nothing is perfect. And you will never, ever be an author if you do that. So, got to keep going. Hey, you've done perfectly well without us. How would you like to do that again, only for less money? Yeah. Dude, Brian, that is 100% it is 100% a thing that happens with, if you're indie and then you decide to go traditionally published, you have to ask the publisher, what are you going to give me that I already haven't successfully gotten myself? And a lot of those instances, what they promise or they try to promise is like, hey, we'll get you a wider audience. So for the Academy Arcanist books, for like Abyssal Arcanist and Academy Arcanist, I actually had Tantor do the audiobooks. Normally I just do the audiobooks myself, but Tantor promised me that they would get my audiobooks in the libraries. They also got me like physical audiobooks. I think I have it around here, like CD physical audiobooks. I've never had CD physical audiobooks before. I was also never, my books, my physical books were in libraries, but my audiobooks were never in the library system like Libby. I don't know if anybody uses the library system. So Tantor promised to get me into the library system, and the reason that that was significant and why I went with them was because I grew up really, really poor, and when I was younger, I used the library all the time in order to read because it was free. Um, and I've always wanted my books to be in libraries for people that couldn't, afford to read them. You know what I'm saying? For kids who want to check out audiobooks, for things like that. It was very important to me to have my works in things like Libby. So when Tantor said, "Hey, as a part of the deal, we'll make sure that happens. We'll make sure you get physical CDs. We'll make sure you get into libraries." I said, "Sure. I'll take a cut to all the money, all the profits. I don't care as long as I can get that." So they gave me something new, whereas a lot of other places they don't offer you anything new. They're just like, just give us a cut of your profits, and we'll give you legitimacy. We'll give you clout. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, thanks, thanks, random publisher. So Podium picked up the Half-Life Empire. This book wasn't self-published by me, but I think they did a really amazing job. They got a great audiobook narrator. I was really happy with the process. So Podium, I'm high-fiving Podium in the background, I guess. It was just great. Uh, Everything else I've basically self-published, including the Nexus games, the lit RPG that I have. I even did the audiobook myself for the Nexus games because, it is when you're an indie author, it makes sense for you to just do it yourself because then you get 100% of the profits. You can control the speed at which it happens. Whereas if you go with the publisher, man, you gotta wait. So even though I super love that Tantor got me into libraries, Abyssal Arcanist, which is the third book in the Academy series, hasn't come out in audio yet because they have a schedule that they do audiobooks, and they're like, "Okay, we got you on the schedule, Shami. Your audiobook will be done in January." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess it'll be done in January." Um, okay, let's see. We've got so many comments. Let me read up through these comments. Oh yeah, regrets not going indie in like in the 2011. I could totally see that. I waited too long to go indie. When I first started writing, I thought the only way to make it as an author was to do the traditional route. And John was the one who convinced me to just go indie. He was like, "Shami, if these traditional publishers don't realize that you're actually a really talented, really passionate author who is telling really great stories, then they can go fuck themselves." Oh, although again, sorry, they can go to bad places because you're really talented and you should just publish your books. So he convinced me to go indie, and I have not regretted that decision at all. I really think that it's a great thing that anybody can go indie, be an indie author. I'm really actually quite disheartened with the state of traditional publishing from like big 5 publishing houses. I used to read a lot of traditionally published books, but in the last decade, you guys, the last decade of traditionally published books have been sad. I don't know how to describe it besides I have not enjoyed. That's not true. I did like books by Jim Butcher. I read The Darkest Hour recently by him, and I liked that one. But that's like the only exception. And I have tried reading a bunch of them, and people keep recommending them to me. Like, dude, somebody recommended to me a book. I think it was called Gamer or maybe Pink Gamer, because obviously I play a lot of video games. I don't know if you can see in the background over here. I've got like video game memorabilia. I love playing video games in general. Oh, you know what? I guess the other caveat is Baen Publishing. I really like Baen. I know they're a traditional company. They're not one of the big 5. They're like a medium company, but they publish stuff like Monster Hunter International, and just recently, like Lord of a Shattered Land, which I really enjoyed. That was a good one. But they're like medium, so I hesitate to be like, they're the traditional publish because they're not as big as like, Penguin or whatever. Anyway, that's a tangent. Somebody was like, "Shami, you're a gamer, you're a girl. You should like this book called Pink Gamer. It was published by Tor or Ace or something like that." And I read it. It's it was it have you ever had that experience where it's like, "Hello, fellow kids," like someone who isn't really into your hobby, but then they're writing about your hobby and you're like, "Wait a minute. That's not what happens in my hobby at all." Like they were writing about being in an MMO and it was nothing like an MMO. Like it was a girl, she had designed her own MMO game and she only allowed her friends to play this MMO, but then people were secretly joining the MMO and she didn't know where they were secretly joining from. And the MMO was a card game, but all the card had poetry on it. It wasn't like a battling system, it was like a collector's. It was very bizarre. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm even like butchering this story because I was like, "What?" And I remember thinking to myself, "Dude, I should just read indie published lit RPG if I really want to get my video game fix." Um, because they are gamers. Yeah, like everybody who writes in the lit RPG genre, super hardcore gamer. You know what I'm saying? And when you read those books, you can tell. You can tell that they love video games and that they love playing video games, that they love things like that, and I can feel the passion. And that's what I actually really, really like about indie publishing. So there's so much passion, you guys. Have you read Dungeon Crawler Carl? Can you not feel the passion? Um, just things like that where I'm excited to read the book. I don't know. That was a rambly rant about the state of books, but um, so yeah, I guess I'm 50-50. There are some traditionally published books that I've legitimately liked, but for the most part, I can't find traditionally published books that resonate with me anymore. Whereas I find indie books that resonate with me, like hardcore. So yeah, I guess I'm in both camps. I'm willing to try out any book, but I really want like the passion and the fun. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for video game references. I'm here for fun. I want all the craziness. I'm one of those people that doesn't. I don't even care if it's like a harem or a reverse harem. If as long as everybody's having fun in the fucking novel, I'm like here for it. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just have fun escapist fantasy. John the other day said he said that I was a merchant of happiness because what I sold was fun adventures. And I would 100% agree with him. I I just want to sell fun adventures. I want to sell escapist fantasy. I want to tell stories that are fun, where everybody is having fun, where we're all having a good time. Maybe I have deeper things to say, but it's not in the like negative preachy kind of way. It's more in the like, guys, if you try really hard, you can make all your dreams come true. that kind of that kind of message, if that makes any sense. I found a lot of lit RPG and game lit are very passionate. Yeah, yeah, Paul, I 100% agree. That's exactly how I feel. Um, yeah, Brian, a lot of the trad books appeal to a mass market, whereas indies unapologetically delve into the bizarre. Yes. So I wear Invisalign on my teeth to correct my crooked teeth. So if I stutter or slur, it's my Invisalign. I'm not drunk, I swear. Yeah, I love fun books. Um, having fun is not allowed. I sometimes feel that way. I made a joke with John that, they have those Oscars or whatever it is for movies. And I told him, I was like, bro, every Oscar movie ever is a tragedy. Like the end always ends in like, and then everybody fucking died. The drug addict died, and I'm just like, why do I watch these? I don't want to watch this. I want to watch Into the Spider Verse. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I want to watch the fucking hero punch everybody in their goddamn face, and all the bad guys are evil, and we can root in their total downfall, and crazy fun stuff happens. Um, Yeah, Abby, I would agree. I don't think I've read a lot of traditionally published stuff that has like heroic elements to it. A lot of it is like really slower or more personal. Like, even that book that I was describing earlier with the MMO card game, the crux of the story, like, the problem was that this lady had developed an MMO somehow at 16, and people were infiltrating it, and she didn't like that because they were being mean to her. And I'm like, "I guess." Like, that I guess this is a story people could get into, but that's not really my speed, that's not my jam. I really want epic heroism. I want self-sacrifice. I want heroes who are unironically good. Um, and it's hard to get into. It's hard to get into those types of like. And then we were all navel gazing, and I'm like, I'm not here for that. Um, the second Spider-Verse movie really captured the cliffhangers. Well, so what I liked about the Spider-Verse movies is that they did a lot of fun comic book stuff that all of these other comic book movies have not been doing. Dude, I love the animated DC movies, but I kind of hate the DC live action movies. There's like the DC animated movies are filled with awesome comic book stuff that I love to pieces. And the live action movies are just donking it up constantly in terms of what cool comic books could do. Except for Into the Spider-Verse. Now I know Into the Spider-Verse isn't live action, but it's like a mega blockbuster. Um, and I liked Into the Spider-Verse, even though Miles Morales in the comic books are nothing like Miles Morales in the Spider-Verse movies, but I really liked Into the Spider-Verse movies regardless because it was just such a good time. I super love comic books. I read them all the time. I just recently got The Last Ronin, the like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book, and the IDW version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So when I say that I super love comic books, I have too many and I read too many. So maybe you don't want to listen to a nerd like me rant about comic book movies, but I thought Into the Spider-Verse was probably one of the best movies I've seen in recent times, and it is just pure heroism. It's awesome, fun comic book stuff. Alternate dimensions, bad guys who are doing kooky things to resurrect their loved ones. It's such a comic book. It's a comic book thing. It's so great. Comic book stuff. Um, I'm not even sure they go for epic fantasy unless it was successful as an indie first. Choice of magic. Yeah. Choice of magic there. Hello, Angel Ramon. Um, The Flash started good. Yeah, dude, Last Ronin was a great comic book. If people really like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and want to get into comic books. uh, yeah, so in the live action, I was actually looking forward to things like Batman versus Superman because I'm one of those guys who's like, yeah, have them fight each other, do it. But the Batman versus Superman movie was not. It wasn't. It was sad face. But I like stuff like that. I really wish, like deep in my soul, there was a video game um that was about super so Lois Lane gets killed by the Joker, and so Superman decides that he's going to start a world government. It's called Injustice. I don't know if anybody's played those games, but man, I love Injustice. Those games were great. Chef Kiss, I'm into it. The Injustice storyline. I wish they would do a live action of Injustice. I know that Invincible is kind of like Injustice, but it's not quite like the Superman one. They don't do stories like that. These live action movies over and over and over again do like the origin story. Oh man, he got bit by the radioactive spider for a seventh time. Okay, yeah, I get it. I know Spider-Man fucking got bit by a radioactive spider. What else do you got? Can we do any of the other storylines that Spider-Man is involved in? Literally any of them. That would be great. I would clap for it. I would clap so hard. Um, have you ever gotten into the web comics? I have read a couple web comics. I I guess I haven't like super followed up on web comics. I think I tried Salvos. That's the one where like a slug turns into a woman, like as it evolves, and I liked that. Uh, yeah, they did an animated movie on Injustice. I don't think it was very good. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't actually know how the community feels about that. But the animated Injustice was not a very good movie. Which is unfortunate. DC Online had a great opening cinematics. Yeah, that's true. I 100% agree with that. The DC MMO. I never played the DC MMO. I haven't had time for MMOs. Dude, I love Pokemon and I haven't had time to play the DLC of Pokemon. I just got Mario Wonder, Super Mario Wonder today because today's the release date. Haven't played it yet. It's been sitting on my coffee table for hours and I feel like a total chump. Okay, 12-year-old Shami would be ashamed of how I have not finished my video games. I wish I had an infinite amount of times. I wish I had a hyperbolic time chamber. I need more time to just consume a bunch of video games, to consume a ton of books. Dude, my TBR is now up to 135 of books to read. And I like reading books. It's not even like I'm like, oh man, I'm I don't want to read 135 books. No, I want to read 135 books. I want to play the 20 video games I have that are still in their goddamn shrink wrap. I just don't have the time if I'm also going to do all my grown-up work and take my dogs for a walk. And also being an adult means I have to exercise. I know that sounds so petty and stupid, but where am I going to get the time to exercise and walk my dogs and do all my writing? I have to write and edit like 30 bajillion books, you guys. My husband also an author. I have to edit, read his stuff too. I read stuff on Royal Road that he tells me is really good. There's just there's a lot. There's a lot to do, you guys. I wish I had enough time. Oh, Baldur's Gate 3. Oh my gosh. I've gotten into Act 2 of Baldur's Gate 3 and I have spent like 40 hours in that game. And I keep wanting to go back to Baldur's Gate because it's so fun. But I'm like, okay, I've already spent 2 hours playing video games today. I have to go back to my work. And then I'm just thinking about Baldur's Gate and being like, oh man, when can I get back to Baldur's Gate? But I had now all my games are piling up. Like I got the Pokemon DLC. I got Mario Wonder. I got all these things. I'm constantly behind on everything, even my hobbies. Suicide Squad, I have no faith in that game. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sad. Playing Super Mario Wonder all day. Yeah, that would be fun. Man, I wish I could do that. Adulting is definitely, oh, geez. Battle Zoo, huh? Don't think I've heard of that one. Dude, Spider-Man 2. God, don't tell me that, Brian. I've been waiting for Spider-Man 2 forever. I loved the first Spider-Man. That was a great game. I super had fun with that game. It was great. And now I'm like, oh jeez. Oh jeez. Dragonborn Blue Tempest Cleric. Nice. Yeah. Dragonborn Blue Tempest Cleric. I didn't play a cleric. I played a sorcerer. I wanted to be a sorcerer. I wanted to be like pew 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 with all the magic. And I played Baldur's Gate a little bit with my friends, my author buddies, and I played an assassin when I played with them. So those are the only classes I've played. I've been enjoying it so much. Really, what I love about Baldur's Gate 3 is the storytelling. There's just so much fun. There's so many fun storytelling elements. I can't wait to see the ending. I know some people say that the ending of Baldur's Gate 3 is a little disappointing, but I really, really want to see the ending. Uh, there's a D&D book that had a great Kickstarter. Is that the Japanese-inspired one with the yokai? I think I backed that one. I can't remember what it is, but I backed that one. I like that. I hired a chunk of writers, so I'd love to know your favorite characters. You hired a chunk of the writers for Baldur's Gate 3? I didn't know that, Brian. That's pretty cool. My favorite characters, I started off hating Lizelle, the Githyanki lady. I hated her. I actually really hate characters who are unreasonable in their assessment of reality. So you grab her and she's like, "Come help me, you piece of shit." And you're like, "Okay, I guess I'm helping her." And then she gets like captured by some randos, like just normal normies. She is captured and put into a wooden cage. And I was like, "What was all that bluster? 2 seconds ago, Lizelle, you just said that you were a fucking badass and you got captured and put into a wood cage." And then when I save her, she's like, you're such a lame You're such a POS. You should have saved me sooner." And I'm like, you were the one in a wooden cage. What the?" So at first I didn't like this lady. However, what I really liked about her character later is she has a lot of conviction. She has a lot of fun character moments. I really like later when I learn about the Githyanki. They used to be slaves of the Illithids, but she explains it in a really fun way. I think it is hilarious when she comes on to you and she's like, "Whoa, man. You totally handled all those bad guys so well. I'm gonna lick all the sweat off your body." And I'm like, "What? Are you coming on to me?" And she was like, "Of course, you buffoon. Let's get together." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess we're gonna get together now." Um, but she started off super abrasive, didn't like Lizelle, but then I got into her. She's actually my romance interest in the main game I'm playing, so I like her a lot. Shadowheart, I like. She is very fun. She's enigmatic. I like that about her. She's also very nice, and she's way more reasonable than so many other characters. I mean, she basically starts off with like, "Hey, thanks for saving me. I know you could have just kept walking, but you chose to save me anyway, and that really means a lot." And I'm like, "Dude, even this statement right here makes me think you're cool. I like you. Let's do this." The only thing I am a little weirded out is that she's constantly just hiding things from you. And me in real life, I would have probably treated the situation differently because she's like, "I've got a magical, powerful artifact that is shielding us from something." And I'm like, "What is that?" And she's like, "Don't look at it too hard and don't ask questions." And I'm like, "Oh, this is awkward." But I like Shadowheart quite a bit. Loved, loved, loved her interactions. Gale is super funny. He is written very hilariously. Every other line that comes out of his mouth is probably hyper poetic, but very funny. So Gale is a delight to talk to. Will, I really like the Sword of the Frontiers. I love unironically good heroes, but he is white bread. He is a little difficult for me to be like, wow, I'm excited to have a conversation with him because he doesn't have many passions other than, I guess, being the Sword of the Frontiers. But even then, if it were me actually talking to him, I would be like, what does that even mean? Um, but I like that his father, the Duke, is in trouble and we got to help out. So he's connected to the story. It's just he's very, I guess, unfun to talk to. He's not going to say anything that delights me at any moment. He's not going to say anything that's like hilarious, and he's not going to say anything that is super intriguing. He's a nice guy. Karlak, I really like Karlak because she has an amazing character design. I'm a little confused about the timeline of her character or what's going on with her character, and she seems a little like, and then her intel score was an 8 type of character. However, she's very fun. She says things passionately. She's ready to go. She's that type of character where you're high-fiving her the whole time. Um, I want to fix her infernal engine, but at the same time, it doesn't have like the high stakes of some of the other characters. The Githyanki Lizelle has like huge stakes in her character story, and I want to see them like play out. Shadowheart also seems to have stakes that are really interwoven in the story. Karlak and Will seem like their stakes are much smaller, so it's a little harder to be super invested in their story. And Gale over here is like, he's like, "Psst, kid, I'm actually a walking nuclear bomb." And I'm like, "What? What was that, Gale? What did you just say?" And he's like, nothing. Just keep feeding me magical items." And I was like, Gale, oh my God. Um, Asterion, super great. I love Asterion because he's pretty funny. He does get really, for lack of a better term, emo, where he's like, I need to get my master because I can't see my reflection anymore. And then he sheds a tear over his reflection. And I don't know why, but I'm like, calm down, man. You do know that the fate of the world is at stake here, right? And you're going to turn into an octopus man in any second. I think you have other concerns than your reflection. But Asterion is hilarious. I love every word that comes out of his mouth, and it's really heightened by his voice actor. Voice actor knocked it out of the park. Super amazing. I think probably my least favorite companion that I've had is Helson. Even that, I'm hesitating to say his name. The guy who turns into a bear, the guy who you can have bear sex with. I only know that because everybody online is like, did you know that you could have bear sex in Baldur's Gate 3? I'm not really into that guy at all. I don't like druids, just in general. Not not into it. And so he's already at a huge disadvantage, and most of his conversation is just, "Whoa, did you know that the Shadowlands are corrupted with shadow?" I'm like, "Okay, got anything new to say?" um, but yeah, most of the other companions great. I didn't get Minthra because I don't usually play evil, so she died very fast. Only after I tricked her and pretended to be one of the True Souls, but yeah, she died, and now I wear her armor as a ode to her. But yeah, I found Asterion and Gale annoying. To be honest, I didn't even pick them up on my run. I feel like Gale is like this weird sardonic, like he's constantly just making jokes. So I find that funny. Asterion feels the exact same way, but in like a haughty, pompous way. I guess I wish he wouldn't complain so much about what I feel like is superficial problems when we have real problems. That's, I guess, if I were actually in the video game, I would turn to some of my companions and be like, guys, we've got real problems. I know you have these tiny personal problems, but can we hold off on being sad about those until we've done with the real problems, like the nuclear bomb in our party and all of us about to turn into squid people? That'd be great. I think I miss a lot of combos. I think because I slaughter a lot of them before I converse with them. Yeah, Asterion constantly bitching. He's very much like, and then he's complaining constantly, and I'm like, okay, you need to you need to calm it down right now. But I did give him a bunch of tadpoles. He's in my team, and he's like, man, I'm power hungry. Give me all the tadpoles. And I don't want to use the tadpoles at all because I'm like, man, I don't want to be an illithid. I don't care if the illithids give me power. I'm not gonna be an illithid. And he's like, let me eat him. And I'm like, all right, here you go, buddy. So I'm curious to see if he turns into an illithid. I haven't looked up any spoilers, so if he does turn into an illithid, don't tell me in chat, guys. God. But yeah, so I can't wait. As soon as I get enough time, as soon as I get enough time in my day, I'll finish that game. I'll play some Mario Wonder, play some Super Mario RPG, do the DLC for Pokemon. I'm gonna do all of it. Uh, it'll be amazing. Oh, so I've gone over my time. Actually, we need to wrap. We need to wrap this up. Oh my God, I've been talking for 50 minutes. Jeez, that I didn't realize the time had flown by that fast, you guys. I'm so sorry. I need to wrap it up. It's been great chatting with you all. You're super awesome. I really like video games. Actually, I just like this community because you all feel like my people. I feel like if we were all just in a room, I would constantly be talking. We would be talking for hours and hours and hours. Thank you, Brian, JD, Paul, everybody who said something. I think Sharon, all these other people, Kyle. You guys are great. Thank you so much for showing up to my wacky takeover. Hopefully, it wasn't too boring. I like you guys. Hopefully, you'll like my writing as well. Have a nice night.